Hey fellow equestrians, it's Claire, and today I'm going to give you guys some basic knowledge on how much it costs to afford a horse. So for those of you looking to buy a horse or just out of curiosity wanting to know, I'll tell you guys kind of just a base cost of how much it costs to own a horse and everything that goes into owning a horse money-wise and all of that stuff. So if you're interested in learning about that, then keep watching. So one thing that I say all the time is the initial price of buying the horse is going to be the cheapest part of your whole horse ownership experience. I mean, obviously not if you buy like $1 million horse or something crazy like that, but you guys kind of get what I mean. If you buy a $500 off the track thoroughbred, because you have $500, that doesn't mean you can afford a horse. There's so much money monthly and yearly that goes into owning a horse that usually end up being more in the end than you actually paid for the horse. So the first main price of owning a horse is paying for board. So board, if you don't know what that is, it's basically a price you pay to a barn a month to basically house and feed and care for your horse. Now, there's a ton of different factors that go into how much your board is actually going to cost per month, and it is a monthly cost that you pay. Typically, barns have you pay on the first of every month, but it's more expensive if you put your horse in a stall and have a full care stall, or you could do a partial care stall, or a pasture board or dry lot board is even cheaper. The prices can range anywhere from like $150 to like $600 is just a main price range. It really depends on, you know, if you have a super fancy barn, it's going to be more expensive. If your barn is a little bit more normal, it's going to be cheaper. And, you know, it also depends on if you put your horse in a stall or a pasture. My board for my horse is currently $400. Prices can fluctuate with, you know, hay prices going up and grain prices and all that stuff. But that's a monthly fee that's always going to be there and is a necessity. You're always going to have that board. Unless you own your own property, then you'll have to pay for your horse's hay, food, bedding, and you know, you'll have to pay for the property. But so that's the first thing. The second big cost is farrier costs. So getting your horse's hooves trimmed or their shoes reset. So that's a cost that typically comes around every 6 to 8 weeks. And it can depend on the horse. River needs to get his feet done about every 6 weeks. 6-7 weeks. It can honestly depend on the horse and how fast their hooves grow and how nice their hooves are, but so that's kind of up to you and your farrier. But every 6 to 8 weeks you'll have that cost, and it can vary on if your horse has all 4 shoes, if they have 2 front shoes, or if they are barefoot. It just depends. Typically, you know, every farrier can charge differently, but typically, just a trim is about $30-$40. A full set of shoes is about $115 depending. And then, you know, 2 shoes is just half of that. So, and it really just depends on your farrier and what they charge. Another factor going into your cost of farrier is if your farrier charges a catch fee. So like if your horse is in a pasture and your farrier has to go catch it, usually they'll charge you like $15, $10 for that, something like that. So to keep prices low on that, be there when the farrier's there to bring your horse to them. And then another thing is a trip fee. So typically lots of barns have 1 or 2 set farriers that come out at set times to do all the horses there. And then there's no trip fee if the farrier is going to do a lot of horses. But if you just have a specific one farrier that you like that nobody else at the barn uses, then you're just going to have to pay an extra fee for them to drive to just do 1 horse. So that is another cost. The next cost are vet costs. So typically you get your horse biannually shots. So every spring and every fall, your horse will get a new round of shots. And your vet will know what shots to give your horse, as well as your horse needs their Coggins drawn once a year. So a Coggins is a test for equine infectious anemia. That is a very bad disease, and you literally can't take your horse anywhere without a negative Coggins test. And then also they'll get their teeth floated about once a year. So horses, when they chew, they wear down their teeth and get like sharp points. And so they need to get those rasped off every once in a while. Some horses don't need it once a year. I know some of my horses I've had in the past needed it once every 2 years. It just depends on the horse. But typically just for shots, that could be like $100 to $200 twice a year with the shots and teeth floating and Coggins. Also, if you have a gelding, they'll need their sheath cleaned. If you don't know what a sheath is, then you should probably Google it, because it's probably not my place to tell you what a sheath is. And if you don't know what this, I don't think that would be very fun to explain. And the next cost would be lessons. So I recommend highly, unless you're just, you already know how to ride and you're just pleasure riding and trail riding, that you take lessons. I take like 2 lessons a week. It can change, but it depends on your instructor on how much lessons cost, but it's cheaper if you're using your own horse rather than one of your trainer's lesson horses. But the prices can range. It's also cheaper if you do a group lesson rather than a private lesson. So, get together some of your friends and try to do a group lesson would be a lot cheaper. For me, I think like my lessons are a total of like $200 a month or something like that. I'm not totally sure. It really just depends on your trainer. If you're training with a professional, they're going to have a lot more expensive lessons and just stuff like that. So I really highly recommend that if you own a horse, you take lessons, but it's not a necessity. Next is insurance. Now, this isn't a necessity, and a lot of people don't insure their horses, but if you're going to own one horse and you're going to compete on it and it's going to be worth a little bit of money, then I would go ahead and insure your horse at least just for a little bit. And this is a cost that, again, differs with the type of insurance you do. If you do all-risk mortality or specified peril, it just depends. How you pay more if you want more protection. So, you'll get money if your horse dies, or you'll get money if your horse needs a super expensive colic surgery, or it's really helpful, and it's good to be there and have that as like a safety net. The next cost is a really cheap cost, thankfully, most of the time, is deworming. So typically I deworm my horse every other month, and I switch what dewormers I used. I'll go from pyrantel to ivermectin, and just switch all that around. Because if you just keep using the same chemicals again, your horse's parasites are just gonna build up an immunity to the dewormer you're giving them, and then it's just gonna be useless. But typically dewormer can go from like $5 to $50, depending if you get a power pack. Now, if your horse is diagnosed by a vet to have bad worms, they'll probably diagnose a power pack, which is going to be really, really expensive dewormer. But typically just maintenance dewormer, it'll be like $5, $10 every other month. So that's really, really cheap. Now, lots of people like to do fecal tests. They'll, scoop up a little turd and send it off to the vet, so the vet can look at it under a microscope and see exactly which dewormers you should use, and if you even need to be using dewormer and all of that stuff. So if you want to get technical with that, you can. I typically don't. I do fecal tests every once in a while, but my horse has never had worms to where it's so bad that I need to switch from what I'm doing. So there's that cost. Another cost is tack and supplies. Now, I just did a video on this on first horse necessities, or all the things you'll need for a horse. So I will link that up above, and you guys can go watch that if you want to know all of the things that I think you need for a horse, like saddles, bridles, fly sprays, grooming stuff, all of that. I listed all in that video, so go check that out if you want to know what supplies you'll need, but this is typically just like a one-time cost. Things like chemicals like fly sprays and stuff like that, and stuff for like your horse's first aid kit, those are things that you're gonna need to replace them as they empty. But this is typically a one-time cost, and it's not going to be like a monthly thing. And in this next video I'm going to link up above, this talks about how to afford a horse. So like money saving hacks and, you know, how I'm able to afford a horse, and just tips and tricks on easier ways to spend less money. So go check that out if you want to know about that as well. Another cost would be shows. I know a lot of people don't show their horses, but shows are a pretty big expense depending on what you're showing in and how many classes you do. Eventing shows are a couple $100s, is just a one-time fee. And then, you know, if you're doing hunters or jumpers, whether it's A-rated or non-rated, typically it's a specific cost per class, so like $25, $30 per class, and then also like an office fee and a stall fee and all that stuff. So if you want to know about how much horse shows would cost for the discipline that you do, ask your trainer or ask somebody else you know that does what you do, and I'm sure they'd be willing to help. But shows are typically a weekend thing most of the time, and you can, you know, enter them whenever you'd like to. If you don't have enough money, you don't have to enter the show. And this isn't a cost that you have to own a horse. You know, you don't have to show. But if you are buying a competition horse and you plan on competing, you need to put this into your thought process of how much it's going to cost me, because shows are a big expense and you need to not forget that. Next is supplements. Now, some horses don't need supplements at all. And if you don't know what a horse supplement is, it's basically something you add to your horse's feed to help them. Like there's weight gain supplements, there's joint supplements, all types of different supplements. Anything you could think of, there's a supplement for that, like a ulcer supplement. There's a million and one different kinds of supplements. So your horse might need a supplement. So if your horse is going to need a supplement, you need to factor that in. And if you don't know what horse you're getting yet, you just need to kind of think, hey, my horse might need a supplement. It might cost me, you know, $30 to $100 a month, depending on how many supplements and what kind of supplements you need. If you guys have been watching my channel, you know what supplement I use, Equine Omega Complete. It's an amazing supplement, and it's basically a supplement that supplements everything from joint to bone density to muscling to weight gain to literally everything. It's an amazing supplement, and I will link that in the description. And also, if you use the code Claire, you'll get $20 off when you buy 2 or more gallons. So hashtag sponsored. And next is a horse trailer. I highly recommend, if you own a horse, that you own a horse trailer. If your horse breaks its leg and needs to be hauled out to the vet immediately, or is colicking or something, and you can't get a vet out to you, you have to have a horse trailer to take your horse to the vet. You know, I mean, if you buy a horse, you can borrow somebody's trailer to go pick it up, but I think it's a really good idea to own a horse trailer if you own a horse. Now, horse trailers can range in price on how old it is, the condition, if it's a 2-horse, 3-horse, 4-horse, if it has living quarters, if it's a gooseneck or a bumper pull. The possibilities are endless. You could get anything from a $1,000 horse trailer to like a $80,000 horse trailer. I'm sure they go up even higher, but it really just depends on how many horses you need to haul and how nice of a trailer you want. So, and that's just a one-time cost. Of course, you know, trailer insurance, you're gonna have to pay that monthly, and, you know, upkeep and maintenance every once in a while if you need new tires or something like that. So that's another cost that you're going to have if you own a horse, and I highly recommend, if you own a horse, that you own a horse trailer. And then the last cost is like emergency vet costs. I think you should always have some money set aside for an emergency, like if your horse is colicking really badly and needs a surgery, or they break a leg, or, you know, the possibilities are endless of how your horse can destroy themselves. So, and it definitely helps if you insure your horse, because, you know, your insurance company will give you money to help with major surgeries or stuff like that. Or if your horse sadly passes away, you know, they'll pay you however much your horse was worth and however much you insured your horse for. So I think that insuring a horse is really good for this emergency aspect. But it's a really good idea to have that money set aside. You know, you don't want your horse to be colicking really badly and there be a couple $1,000 surgery and you just have to put your horse down because you can't afford it. I think that's a horrible position to be in, and you know, that's not fair to your horse. So if you're going to buy a horse, have some money set aside. Please, please, please. Just in case of emergencies, because they happen. I swear to you, they happen. So please be smart. And if you're going to buy a horse, put this into consideration. Vet bills can range from hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars. It's ridiculous how expensive horse surgeries and stuff can be. So please, 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 please think about it. Also, I would like to point out I'm wearing my new Aztec Diamond Equestrian base layer. It is freaking amazing and so flattering and so comfy, and I just love it with all my heart. So check them out. I will link them in my description. They also have leggings and tights and a ton of cool clothing. So that was all that I have for you guys today. There's, you know, some other costs that some people put on their horses, but these are just kind of the main ones and the main ones that are mostly necessary. And I know owning a horse is so expensive, so leasing a horse is a really good alternative to where you just kind of pay a monthly fee to like half own the horse. It's a really good alternative, and I've leased horses for forever, and it's an amazing experience, and especially a good learning, you know, stepping stone before you buy a horse to do that. And especially if you're, you know, financially challenged, you can still have the feeling of owning a horse without actually owning the horse. So think about leasing. If you can't afford to buy a horse, that's an option. There's always some way that you can get the experience of having a horse to yourself. Now, owning a horse is expensive, but I swear to you all, it is worth every penny in so many ways. So if you really are taking lessons and you decide you want to take the next step, talk to your parents, talk to your trainer, do the research, and I promise anything can happen. So I love you all so much. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope this was helpful, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.